Welcome to the Property Mindset podcast, where I'm Emma Howitt, mentor, investor, and your guide to building wealth, freedom, and personal transformation through property. Property isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's about building a life you truly desire. In this space, we don't just talk about strategy, but we really deep dive into mindset. And something that I've found is often missing in every other industry, but has been a real game changer for me in professional property circles. So today we are looking at 7 property investor mistakes holding you back and how to fix them with the right mindset. And remember, let's turn your dreams into actions and actions into success. So let's kick off. What's the number one? So the number one, I believe, and I think it's hugely missed out upon, is understanding your why. Lots of people think, oh, I want some more money. I maybe want to have a better car, better house. Maybe I want to do stuff for my kids. I maybe want to have financial freedom, but they don't really dig down into exactly what that why is. And that can then mean that there isn't an alignment. So if you imagine, let's say you've got Sarah, who's an investor, and she is all about having freedom, not just financial freedom, but being able to have a passive income. So, not so much to do with the business to enable her to really enjoy her life. And then suddenly she sets up, for instance, a rent to rent service to accommodation business and management company. And so, if any of you know that kind of business, it's incredibly busy. There is so much going on. You don't necessarily have what you might call a 9 to 5. You've got guests calling you at 2 in the morning. You've got cleaners not turning up. You've got times of the year where you might have seasonal bookings. So it's like feast or famine. And so you can see this kind of image of her real why, her real soul, what she values is just completely lost. She's there overwhelmed the whole time, and that is not the reason why she started up. So I really like to look at Simon Sinek's. If you haven't had a look, he's got some great TED Talk as well, great videos, and it's all about starting with why. And why is all about, your internals. And I've got another podcast where I really deep dive into your why, but it's really about making sure that your why actually aligns with your strategy. So, number one, I say, is go and understand your why. So, what's number two? Number two is the fear of taking the first step. We've all been there, haven't we? You'll literally know what you need to do. You've got enough information, but you are terrified. So whether it's going networking, I mean, you hear hilarious stories of people going to networking events and they're too shy, they're too embarrassed to even go and talk to somebody. And I know one person who was on their phone, and then the phone rang. So it was so obvious that they were just hiding in the corner. And other things that can really help hold you back is, having just too many things going around and you just can't take that first step to help you get on your way. How many of you said this year, I'm going to do property? And that was 3 years ago. So there's so many things that hold us back. So we have to get into that mindset to ensure that we get that first deal. And that could be lots of different things. Often it's just literally start now, get perfect later. Fantastic Rob Moore quote there. And it's looking at moving forward. So whether it's buying that first property, whether it's getting that first sourced deal, Whatever it is, it's taking that first step and getting it done. So if that's you, yeah, let me know in the show notes, and we'll hear back from you. Next, then, number 3, the big mistake that property investors make and hold them back is relying on the perfect deal myth. Who has that? Who thinks that there is a perfect deal out there? I literally have not found one. So this whole thing about perfection, if you're a real perfectionist, this is really challenging. And I really found this early on. And in fact, I still go through this, is property has so many moving parts. There's so many ways that you can purchase a property. It's not just a mortgage, is it? It's cash, it's other people's money. There's so many different ways of purchasing a property. Then there's so many different properties. I mean, you could have a lighthouse and you can have a tiny home. So many different properties. And then there's so many different ways that you can monetize that property. So you could use it as serviced accommodation, you could flip it, you could deal source it, you could split titles. There's just, again, so many different ways of monetizing that. So to have this hope that there will be this perfect deal is just never ever going to happen. So that's where it's really key to understand that perfectionism is really going to stop you moving forward. It's the absolute enemy of progression. So we need to understand where we can get to that good enough, because clearly we don't want you to be doing deals that don't work, that are a nightmare. And even, you know, in the best worlds, we can still have the odd property that perhaps doesn't work out, but we have to have enough of a criteria to know that, right, I need to keep going now, and putting on those big girl and boy pants and going, right, I've just got to make that jump and get it going. So yeah, please, there is never going to be that perfect deal. It is truly a myth. So number 4 of these mistakes that property investors make is over leveraging without understanding your cash flow. So this is absolutely huge, especially if you're coming into property hoping to, for instance, leave your job, change your career, maybe slow down, just do something completely different. We have to have income, don't we? So if it's going to become your primary source of income, the number one thing to understand and to start with is cash flow, especially with recently we've had changes in interest rates. So whereas we've had very, very low interest rates for such a long time, people have been able to get away with taking on properties, and perhaps there's not a huge amount of cash flow, but the equity has grown, so they are more valuable year by year by year, the property. So once the interest rates have gone up, suddenly that property that was potentially earning them more money is now really almost costing them money. And that's been seen in Section 24, where you can't offset your mortgage payments anymore. So it's an absolute shocker. We do this property to make money. We are not a charity. So it is so key to understand to not over leverage yourself. You need to make sure that it makes enough money for things that may go wrong. It has enough for, you know, all of those kind of things that might go wrong. We've got to have that A, B, C, D plan and ensure that you are not having to go and find money from elsewhere to cover that. So cash is king. Prioritize that cash flow over capital appreciation. Obviously, we want capital appreciation. We hope for capital appreciation, but you must not rely on it, especially in the short term. So be absolutely meticulous in ensuring that each and every one of your properties generates a positive profit. Okay, another one.